Hi there folks, I wanted to take you on a quick tour of a very exciting tool that's been developed by one of our workflow heroes, Vadim Tabakman, the Nintex Workflow Converter. First things first, I want to cover the announcement that led to the conception of this tool, and then let's have a quick tour of it itself, where you can find it and what the different settings are. So first and foremost, all credit to Vadim for creating this absolutely fantastic, very relevant tool. I've just had a play with it today and it works brilliantly. So what led to this being created? The Nintex Workflow Converter was created off the back of Microsoft's announcements, plural, around the retirement of certain workflow engines for Office 365 customers. So importantly, the SharePoint 2010 workflow retirement in Office 365 as of August 1st, turned off for new tenants. As of November 1st, removed for existing tenants. But there are other announcements around the SharePoint 2013 workflow engine for Office 365 being turned off. SharePoint 2010 on-premise coming up for end-of-life support. And you're probably aware as well of the InfoPath end of 2010 support October this year and 2013 next year. So quite a lot happening in that space. It's probably important that we get our heads around where we can go from here. So without further ado, the converter. I've downloaded it. I've configured it very minimally, real quick and easy install actually, a tiny little bit of configuration that needed to be done. So all I've done is added some settings for Nintex Workflow Cloud, so personal access token and the tenant name. So that will allow me to create a workflow into this Nintex Workflow Cloud environment here. So at the moment, customer feedback was my last workflow created. So when I create a new one, we'll see that that pops in there. So I'll just minimize that just now. And I have SharePoint Designer open, pointing at an Office 365 tenant. So that's one of the many options that we can convert with the tool. So we're going to be able to convert SharePoint 2010 workflows, SharePoint 2013 workflows. So those SharePoint Designer workflows are supported. They will need to be exported from this designer into the Visio format in order for the conversion tool to pick them up, convert them, and then push them into a Nintex offering of your choosing. So 365 on-prem and Nintex Workflow Cloud, and obviously the ability to convert from one of the SPD 2010 or 2013 formats. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually start from scratch. I'm going to create a new SharePoint 2010 workflow for a list within this Crisco Office 365 tenant. So let's go completely and utterly from scratch, and it's going to be a really, really simple list. So here's my test hybrid list from within that Office 365 tenant, and what I'm going to do is create a new workflow in SharePoint Designer. So I'm going to give this a name. So let's call this Chris's 2010 SPD workflow, and don't need a description, but the platform type here 2010. So if you've got all of these sort of the approval workflows and the 3-state workflows and anything that you've built with SharePoint Designer to in Office 365 that's about to become defunct, you're going to be able to move them into a platform that's ready to pick them up in Nintex Workflow Cloud or in Nintex Office 365. So let's click on OK. I'm just going to put in something really simple here. I'm going to do an assign a task, all right? Just something really quick and easy that we should be able to see translated into Nintex Workflow Cloud once it's created. So I'm going to assign a to-do item to these users. I'm just going to choose young Chris Ben here. So let's just add Chris. So as part of that, I want to add a new item, to-do item, send that to Chris Ben. So nothing particularly fancy as part of that. And now I can save that workflow. So I'm going to click on save. It's going to save that SharePoint 2010 workflow. So I now have a new SharePoint 2010 SharePoint Designer workflow in Office 365 called Chris 2010 SPD workflow. So what I'll do is I'll close this down. And I'll close down that list as well, just so we're going back to the root here. So I'm at my Crisco site. Let's click on workflows. I need to find that workflow. So I've got a load of Nintex ones here. And here it is, Chris 2010 SPD workflows. Let's click on that. And now I go up to workflows and export to Visio. I'm going to export that to Visio, and I've got a workflow inputs folder that's been created on my desktop, and it's coming through as a Visio workflow interchangeable file format. Save. All right. Don't need Designer anymore, so we can minimize that one. And I've now got my workflow converter open as well, my SharePoint workflow converter. And what I want to do is convert that from a 2010 file, and I'd quite like that to go to Nintex Workflow Cloud. I'm going to be very future-proofing my technology roadmap. So let's click Nintex Workflow Cloud. Gives me a few options. Select the file is the first thing I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to pick up that SharePoint Designer file. So let's click to select the file. Workflow inputs, here we go, click on that. And then convert. So it's going to convert, it goes and creates the task. It shows me the actions that it's actually then converted in the log. Obviously I only had that one action, but a bigger workflow would obviously have more actions in there. And I can simply import that straight into Nintex Workflow Cloud. And before I do that, there's also the option to do a bulk conversion. So this will handle up to 1,000 workflows en masse, which is absolutely fantastic as well. So the ability to bulk convert from 2010 to Workflow Cloud. We appreciate, and as part of Vadim creating this, obviously one-to-one is going to be quite laborious, so that convert as well. Import to Nintex Workflow Cloud. And that should then import that into my NWC Nintex Workflow Cloud tenant. I can click to open that straight away. But what we might do is open up my Nintex Workflow Cloud environment that was open before, and I'll do a quick page refresh. And we should see that new workflow just pop into the top. Let's just go full screen. So you see it in all its glory. There you go. Chris SPD workflow. Open that up. It's now been created as a draft. So this is a simple converter to convert the layout and the format of those actions that you have. So it's not going to do the configuration. It's not going to pull that across. There's still a little bit of those dots to join up. But I've got my assign a task on there, and obviously any more workflow actions would obviously have been created alongside that. Absolutely phenomenal amount of work that's gone into creating this. So where can you get this as a user, as a partner, or someone that's interested? Well, it's up on the gallery.nintex.com, and it's under the tools section that's been created. If you want to know a bit more about the converter, click on the I for information. It's going to set out some settings that you can add, the different conversions requirements that you will need. So the Visio format, spelling that out there as well. What it will convert to, so the ability to take those SharePoint 2010, SharePoint 2013 Workflow Designer built workflows and add them into an on-premises, Office 365 or Nintex Workflow Cloud deployment, and then how it differs from a single conversion to a bulk conversion. So without further ado, feel free to pop onto the gallery.nintex.com, simply click on I want this. That will download the installer as well as a really handy user guide, and you should be ready to start converting those SharePoint 2010 and 2013 workflows into the Nintex Workflow platform. Thanks very much.